All right, everybody, welcome. Welcome, Dr. Jelicic. We're so happy to have you here, and welcome everybody that's joining us. If you're here live, we were just popping names in the chat box and where you're coming from so we can get to know you a little bit better. And just a little housekeeping note, this recording will be available to everybody that has registered for the course, and I'll try to get it out to you by the end of the week. So if you'd like to revisit any of the information, it will be available to you. And also, we will be talking today about our upcoming course with Dr. J. That's going to be Wednesdays starting next week at the same time at noon. So we'll go a lot more into depth on the teachings of the chakras. So we are so excited today to welcome Dr. Jelicic. He is our CIHS Board of Trustees chair and lead faculty. And he was also one of the first students to attend CIHS's opening in 1992. He teaches many courses for us, including Motoyama Philosophy and Practice, Psychology of the Chakras, Past Lives, Karma, Reincarnation, and more. Dr. Jelicic is an internationally known lecturer and travels widely and has been doing spiritual counseling and healing worldwide for over 30 years. He is an ordained minister and has an active practice in subtle energy medicine, energy psychology, and spiritual counseling. He offers many lectures and workshops on the chakras, past lives, and spiritual development. He's also the author of books on chakra psychology and metaphysics and is the founder of the Light News Institute and Integrative Chakra Therapy, an energy medicine, energy psychology school for practitioners and the public. He's taught his method, ICT, for over 24 years and has over 500 students and graduates in the US and Canada. So we are so happy to welcome Dr. J. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you all in the audience. My name is Nicole. If you have any questions throughout our program, feel free to pop them in the chat box, and I'll do my best to answer them. And we also will have time for Q&A at the end of the hour on our lecture on the chakras. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. J now. Hi, Dr. J. Thanks so much.
Hi, Nicole.
For being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll just looking here. I'm going to turn off my video for a moment, and we're going to start out with a short little meditation. So eyes open, eyes closed, it doesn't really matter. Let's just take a moment. Breath in and breath out. Breath in and breath out. And just be aware of that beautiful center that you always have, because you always are in the center. Move into that heart space. And with every breath, you feel yourself even more centered, more focused. And realizing that your own self-empowerment is active at all times, that there is a beautiful part of you that is more than just a physical expression, and that both of those beyond space and time and the one in the physical dimension are simultaneously active. And feel those aspects of yourself merging together as one. As we begin our journey today into the understanding and the awareness of our chakra system, each one of us aligning to our unique gifts and skills, which in this lifetime we are to use, and also aligning with the universal presence, which is known by many names, that exists firmly and solidly within the center of our being. You are whole. You are complete. There is no separation. There is only oneness. And may the principles of harmlessness and compassion be the ever-present, ever-constant guide of your every intention, of your every thought and of your every action. And so it is, and so it shall be. It is done. And breath in gently and deeply. And breath out. Breath in gently and deeply. And breath out, feeling solidly your purpose, feeling your physical presence in the room, your breath. And when you feel the moment is right, open your eyes. I'm so glad you could join me today. I just have a few slides that I want to go through, and then I want to open it up so that we can see each other and have you ask a lot of really cool questions. But as Nicole said, this is all recorded for you, and you can always register for the course if you're interested, and a week goes by and you say, oh my gosh, I should have registered. You always can, and you would get all of the recordings as well. And remember to ask lots of questions. So Nicole pretty much said it all with my own background. The only extra thing is I'm the co-founder of the Bamboo Garden Wellness Center here in Encinitas, which is just very, very close to the CIHS campus. And just to give you some of my background in teaching integrative chakra therapy for over 24 years, this is just some of my graduates in the US and Canada that study with me to learn how to do this form of energy medicine and energy psychology. These are a couple of the books that I've written. They're very handy should you choose to take the course. The one on the left is more of the definition of the chakras and my perceptions, perspective, and research. The one on the right is more how we relate to each other in a more sociological way. So, how do we go through life? Which one of these people is you? Are you the one sitting in front, not steering, not knowing what's pushing you, but you are just embracing what's coming? Are you the one steering? Are you the one hanging on? I think maybe you and I are all three at times in life. And so chakras are our teachers. You'll find that they are just a lot more than an organ or an energy source, but actually they are carriers of consciousness, or should I say conduits of consciousness between dimensions. And that awakening the chakras allows awareness beyond the five sense perception to arise and to give rise to higher orders of perception and perspective. So really, we are more kind of like this image. Our seven chakras are really never closed or blocked. I mean, they can be strong, weak, excess, deficient, dormant, stimulated, awakened, but they are always on simply because they are not limited to time or space. And I realize that, with the participants that are here today, some may be entirely familiar with the chakras, and some, the term chakra may be new to you, and that's fine. Yet, to me, the chakras are always on, always present, always this conduit between dimensions of reality for our individuation. And we all take a psychic relationship to each other long before the mind thinks a single thought. So, this is a four-part series that I'll be teaching. It doesn't matter whether you're a practitioner or a beginner. This course will cultivate your intuitive abilities and discernment. I wanted it to be a more experiential course than just only a learning course so that you could actually put this into practice in your life. So this is a culmination of over 30 years of my own personal spiritual counseling and healing work and research. Many of my theories of the chakras, including dominant chakra characteristics, each chakra has one or more intuitive abilities that are constantly active. We have higher and lower aspects to each chakra. There are strengths and weaknesses and what they mean, the relationship between chakra types, prep for integrative chakra therapy course. Should anyone want to go on and take a course in integrative chakra therapy or ICT, this is ideal for you. And of course, I'm happy to give you any references that I cite or any book references that you would like. So this course is experiential. Everyone's intuition is on 24/7. We never close. And these exercises cultivate your intuitive faculties in a very safe manner, what Dr. Motoyama used to say, in the safety way. Dr. Motoyama was one of my main teachers in this lifetime, and I took courses from him. I even assisted him in several workshops and weekend lectures. The foundation of the course is self-empowerment and higher levels of awareness of our multidimensional nature. So in part one, we're going to talk about the foundation, the dimension of individuation through the chakras. We'll talk about the 3 yoga bodies, which comes from the teachings of the yogas over 3,000 years old. We'll talk about qualitative versus quantitative reality, how each chakra is our teacher and sets up conditions and circumstances in our life so that we can dissolve the seeds of karma that each chakra contains. And when the time is right, these situations develop because they are, in fact, our teachers. So it's interesting to note that the chakra is actually revealing a way to overcome the idea of illusion or separation from the oneness in which we already are. We'll talk a little bit about dominant chakra theory. We'll talk a little bit about the human biofield, clearing and cleansing techniques, how faith is crucial to true spiritual growth. In week 2, part 2, we'll talk about the 7 chakras, sensing their true nature, chakras 1 through 7, that each chakra possesses one or more intuitive faculties, that as we expand, we collapse, meaning as we expand our awareness, we collapse the difference between the dimensions of reality and become that. What happens when a chakra awakens? Working in the safety way, as I had mentioned, perception and purpose. In part 3, we'll talk more about perception and purpose. There's going to be a lot of interactive discourse because you're going to have a lot of questions. And it takes time to integrate higher orders of awareness into our physical waking consciousness and how to make it functional and practical and active in our lives. We will determine a dominant chakra type. We will talk about higher and lower aspects, and we'll do some self-inquiry assessing your chakra type and that of others in the constellation of your relationships. And in week 4, of course, we'll put it all together. We'll wrap it all up. We'll talk about awakened chakras. We'll speak a little bit more deeply about expanding to collapse. We'll talk about terms such as being as topos and biological oscillation. Being as topos means when you arise to a certain level of spiritual awareness, you actually help other people to arise to that level because they take a psychic relationship to what you represent in your level of being, what Dr. Motoyama called being as topos. Topos means the field or the level. And biological oscillation is a term that I just wrote a blog about last week. You can actually read about it on my website, lightnews.org, on the blog page, about how we take a relationship to each other. Like a simple example would be the hummingbird and the flower. Hummingbird is the animal kingdom and the flower is the plant kingdom, but how do those two kingdoms know how to merge their consciousnesses so the beak fits the flower exactly in order to conserve energy? So we'll talk a little bit about that and how it relates to your chakra system. We'll talk a little bit about relationship between chakra types. Let's say your dominant chakra might be the throat chakra, but your partner or your friend's chakra that's dominant might be the 3rd chakra. So how do those actually relate to each other based on how those intuitive faculties as dominant affect your perception of reality? Then, of course, we'll do a summation of course objectives. And of course, each part is going to rely a lot on our discourse, our interaction with each other. So the course structure is very simple. We start out with a guided imagery meditation. We move into the lecture on the topics at hand. We have an interactive discourse, so your participation is most welcome. And you're welcome to write to me in between the weeks as well, because I will be handing out some assignments and exercises that you can do in the meantime. And if you have read Eye of the Lotus, this book, you'll find it very helpful. It's definitely not a read at once book. So practicum exercises, there'll be homework designed to enhance your intuitive faculties. And of course, there is a full course outline. And Nicole's going to put some information in the chat so that you can access it. Or if you want to email me, info@lightnews.org, I'm happy to send you the full course outline because it goes into more detail about each of these 4 parts. It's interesting too, because I have been actively in this work since the late 80s, and I'm still learning about the chakra system and what they represent. And the fascinating part is it's still a process, or you never stop, you never end up finishing learning. There's always more. And the chakras themselves keep revealing the depth of the truth of our being more and more as we engage them. So if you already have spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, contemplation, yoga, philosophy, yoga practice, that's great. Please do continue. And if you register by March 1st, Nicole is offering a $100 discount for the course, which is really, really cool. And I have to tell you, for the amount of information that you'll receive in this course, it is very, very well worth it. I don't think you'll find this way of looking at the chakras from any other source that I've looked at that might be out there, but I'm not aware of it. So I'm not going to go through this, but basically you saw when you signed up for this course, the learning outcomes. Learning outcomes is huge in academia because over the past 30 years, the focus has not been so much on what the teacher teaches, but what the student learns. So it's one thing, for instance, for me to give a lecture. It's another thing to come away and say, well, okay, well, what did you actually learn from this? I know that I taught this, but what did you get from this? So these are what I hope are the learning outcomes that you will receive from this 4-part series. And the nice thing is that you can continue after this 4-part series is done, you can continue to groom and cultivate and grow your intuitive faculties in a very safe way to continue your own self-realization and self-empowerment. Also, you'll learn self-assessment. You'll learn how to take a look at your chakras and which one appears to you to be dominant. In fact, in my other book, I Can Relate with the orange cover, it actually has a inquiry listing, like a click list that you can go through to make assessments on each chakra to determine. But you'll also learn through that self-inquiry of your dominant chakra why you perceive reality in the way you do. Let's say if you were heart chakra dominant as opposed to throat chakra dominant, those are 2 very different types of intuitive faculties. And even though they're all active, we tend to be more active in one than another. So it tends to color our perceptions of reality. So if that filter is taken away, as the chakras awaken, you start to see things more as they are than as they appear to be. So it's very, very different. One of the things I love to do is full moon meditations. I've been doing them and guided imagery meditations since 1992. And we just had one last week. We do them, of course, every month during the full moon, but I also give messages from spirit, which is meant to be empowering and to be optimizing. And the reason I do that is to be able to observe everybody's chakras, of course, with their permission, and to reveal more about the nature of their character in this lifetime is very, very helpful, and it's very, very empowering. And of course, as you continue to cultivate the awakening, the stimulation, the gentle stimulation of your chakras, you're automatically going to have greater levels of discernment about all of your relationships with other people. The entire, as I said, the constellation of relationships, that all shifts. So one of the most important things about this course is everybody has intuition, but not everybody's intuition works in the same way. When I'm teaching my ICT course on the very first weekend, some of the students say, well, Dr. J, I don't see the things the way you do. Yes, you might not be visual. You might be empathic. You might be telepathic. You might be a clairsentient, which means you just know. It just comes to you. You just know. You might be clairolfactant, which means you can smell, not a physical smell, but a psychic smell. There's many different types of intuitive abilities. You might be somatic. You might feel it in your body. So the thing here is that all of these forms of intuition go to the same place. And in order to get the most fruit from this 4-part course is to trust the way your intuition works for you, to trust that it's on 24/7, but it takes a lot of faith. Faith is trusting with your heart what your mind doesn't yet know. Faith is trusting something to be true when there's no evidence to support it. So even though everyone is psychic, as you cultivate that ability with a great amount of inner trust, and you bring that trust up even, you bring your intuition level up even with your practical and rational mind, now you have a perfect point of balance. Trust what you feel, then apply what you know. Trust what you feel, then apply what you know. That's why in 1992, I moved from San Diego to Leucadia in April, not knowing why. And then in August, I heard about CIHS opening its doors for the first time in September of 92. And I was one of the first 3 students. There were 3 faculty and 3 students, but was trusting what my intuition was telling me. Yogananda would say, intuition is the soul speaking to you. Okay. So the actual course starts next Wednesday, March 6th, then 13th, 20th, and 27th. And you can save $100 if you register by March 1st. But no problem after that. If you want to register, that's fine. And Nicole's going to put the link in there for you. And let me just look at the chat here to see if there's something here. Okay. And I wanted to go through the slides, as I said, rather quickly, because my sense in meditation this morning was you'd have a lot of questions. So what I want to do now is stop sharing and open up the screen and have you come online if you like. And I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Now, I covered a lot in just a few minutes. And people say to me, well, how come taking the entire course, like if you wanted to be a practitioner of this, it takes over 2.5 years? Now, why does it take so long when today we are learning so quickly about quantum mechanics, about collapsing waveforms and altering our consciousness? Well, it just takes time to integrate spiritual learnings. It just takes time. It's not something that ordinarily could take place overnight. I mean, for years, I've tried to teach this course in less time, but teaching a person how to do this work fully, safely, and completely, I haven't found a way in 24 years to do that more quickly. But you can take the course in modules. Like there's one module that only takes 3 months, and it gives you a very strong basics in the chakra system, clearing and cleansing techniques, and then you can take more modules. So you don't have to take it to become a practitioner. You can just take it for your own spiritual development. So let's open it up.
Yes, and if you would like to ask a question, you can either type it in the chat box, or I'm sorry, in the Q&A box or chat box, that works too. Or you can raise your hand and I can unmute you and you can speak your question or ask your question directly to Dr. J.
Do we have the capability to put everybody online or visually? Or is that not how this works?
Not with webinars. We can't
Oh,
do,
okay.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, but the course will be available to have our videos on if we would like that.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes.
Never in my life did I think I would be talking as much as I am now. I never dreamed I would be teaching the chakras, because I started out life working for my dad in a shipyard that he owned. And so, yes, this would be a great refresher. The question was, would this be a refresher for the course? This is from a lovely person who is now a practitioner who graduated years ago from ICT. And would this be a refresher for the 3-year training? Yes, it would be a good refresher. But it would not be a refresher for how to give assessments to people. Oh, it's from Christopher. Christopher is Helen's partner. But it would not be, how to actually be the conduit of healing work. This is more experiential for your intuitive perceptions, to hone them. If you want to actually engage in healing work, energy medicine, energy psychology, that is the ICT course itself. It's a great question.
And as you've been popping your emails into the chat box, I've been sending over the course outline. So continue to do that or send me an email. But any more specific questions? Thank you, Denise.
Yeah, it's interesting too. If you ever want to save the chat, there's 3 little dots down at the bottom of the chat box. And if you click on it, there's a function there that says save chat. It'll save it to your computer.
Oh, that's great.
Well, because sometimes you might want to save the registration link or save your question, So please, this is your opportunity to ask me questions. I actually went through the 4 parts rather quickly. There's just so much. I mean, this book is, 420 pages. And we have done book studies for our students with over 100 episodes on YouTube, just going through this book piece by piece. And we've done that twice, and we've done many episodes on I Can Relate too, simply because the chakras reveal to you so much insight. Like the chapter on the second chakra is 5,000 words longer than any other chakra, because no matter which chakra is dominant, we all have second chakra stuff. So thank you for those already on this journey for a while who have been honed our skills a bit already. So the next question is there a correlation between chakras and the Maya, what the Maya believed and taught? The Mayan, they're talking about the Mayan culture as a race of people who were very awakened and had an understanding of the harmonics of the universe related to calendrical functions and alignments of planets, stars, and galaxies. But the Mayans didn't necessarily talk about the 7 chakras only. But I don't really intend to talk about the Mayans, even though I've taken people to the land of the Maya probably 15 times since 2005, Guatemala, Honduras, southern Mexico, to understand their oral traditions, but from a more awakened consciousness as to how they knew that these particular cycles of time were related to consciousness. So that's an entirely different lecture, and those lectures I do give through lightnews.org. So how would that work within the course? The Q&A time would be an opportunity to get more specific to our own skills and abilities. Yes, precisely, because then I can talk to you directly. And of course, with your permission, I can give you a lot more direct guidance and information to assist you uniquely. And that's what I'm hoping to do with this course, the teachings of the chakras, because as I said, the chakras themselves are conduits between levels of individuation. The physical dimension, astral dimension, causal dimension are the 3 yoga bodies, or the 3 dimensions of individuation. So you actually have an astral body and mind. You have a causal body and mind right now. And all 3 of those exist simultaneously. But most people are not aware of their astral and causal, and they're not aware that the chakras exist in all 3 dimensions, not just this dimension. So what happens as you awaken a chakra, it begins to collapse the difference between those dimensions, and you now merge. You don't go down into your body, you don't ascend out of your body. You actually merge these dimensional levels of awareness to higher orders beyond 5 sense perception intellect. That's why I so much wanted to do this course. And even, you know, Nicole, you could even take this little snippet right now of the video, this last 40 seconds or so, and use that as a promo for next week, because that's really what happens as you endeavor to use your chakras. And that's why ICT is so powerful, is because the way I teach integrative chakra therapy is you actually have to use your chakras to assess someone else's chakras, which is like going to the chakra gym. You're actually making your chakras stronger every time you use ICT. Well, that's a great question. Any other questions through the chat or email? I have taught psychology of the chakras many times at CIHS, and past lives, karma, and reincarnation, and Dr. Murayama's Murayama philosophy and practice. And the purpose of CIHS, you know, is mind, body, spirit. It's yes, it's academic, of course, and scientific research, yes, of course, but it's also helping the student to gain a higher order of awareness of the true spiritual nature of what is called the whole human being: mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. So it turns out that each chakra affects these four archetypes of the whole human being: mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. So if a person begins to awaken their chakras, they have a greater command over all four of those archetypes, not just one. That's why when I endeavored to start understanding the chakras in the late 80s, I wanted to know how we even came to be here, how we even were even in this dimension, and that I started to discern that the chakras affect these four archetypes, and that as the chakras awaken, it affects how we perceive reality, but in a higher order of being. So that's, is to me, I couldn't find any form of healing work any more powerful, but also understanding that the chakras are our doorways to higher levels of being is why yoga philosophy is so inured in the development of one's own self-empowerment, or as Yogananda would say, one's own self-realization.
We've got
Could you?
another question. Yeah, I can read that. Let's see.
Yeah.
Um, for anyone who is on the fence, I want you to know that you receive an unparalleled quality instruction from Dr. Jelicic. They will not get anywhere else. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm kind of echoing that. His psychology of the chakras course through our academic programs is one of the favorite courses from all of the students. I get that those responses annually from the students, that that is definitely one of the favorite courses. So this is a version of that is available to you as the public. So that's really great. Let's see. Denise is asking, could you speak briefly about a Kundalini awakening, as some people describe it, and your understanding of what is occurring during that?
Yeah, Kundalini, the coiled serpent that otherwise sits at the base of the spine in the Muladhara chakra, Muladhara meaning the root chakra at the base of your spine. And it has a lot to do with what is called the Sushumna, which is the main channel of light, the main column of light that shines through the lenses of all seven chakras, and the Ida and the Pingala, which are the twisting serpents of the caduceus, as a unit. And so if one wants to awaken the Kundalini, it isn't so much a shot of energy up the spine as it is when one prepares for Kundalini awakening. There's ways to do it. One is to clear the lenses or cleanse the lenses of your chakras as best you can, so that you don't awaken yourself too soon, because it can cause a lot of problems. Let's say you take Kundalini yoga under a teacher who is not qualified. You know, it's best to fly on an airplane with a pilot that actually has experience of flying the plane. So to not undertake it unless you do it in a very safe manner. But it has to do with igniting the the stimulation of a chakra to awaken. But chakras awaken differently in forms of samadhi. Samadhi means union with God. You can have a physical, astral, causal samadhi. You can have one for 5 minutes, one for an hour. You can have 1,000 in your lifetime or one in a lifetime. So there's a lot of ways of looking at Kundalini as a coiled serpent rising, but it's a form of awakening. Now, one other form is called transmission. There are some teachers who can help you to awaken your Kundalini through what the Tibetans call it a transmission, but it's a form of healing work that is carrying a lot of responsibility for the spiritual teacher to not awaken the student too soon, because it would basically burn you up. So all of this has to be undertaken with a lot of maturity, a lot of due regard, a lot of responsibility. If you ever undertake to be a spiritual teacher, there's a lot to it. So yeah, there's a lot about this subject of Kundalini awakening. So if you're going to go directly to do that, I mean, the sapling is not going to be able to bear a lot of fruit initially, but eventually it will. So when you're ready. Now, I have stopped students halfway through my course. They would get to levels 10 and 11, and I would say, well, you're going to have to wait a little bit because they weren't ready to learn what was next in my teachings. And that's just the responsibility that I take on. So I say, if you're not ready, I'm sorry. But if you are, that's great. It's kind of like if you took karate and try to go to the next level when you're not ready and I get your butt kicked. So these are really important questions. But Kundalini awakening is very real. It can be done gradually, it can be done quickly, but it should always be with someone who is very qualified to teach it to you. Excellent, excellent question. Can people take individual classes at CIHS without being registered in a full academic program? Yes, I believe you can audit those classes. You can talk to Dr. Hideki Baba. He is our registrar, and I know he'd be happy to answer that question.
I can put his email into the chat box if you'd like. Yes.
It's fascinating to me too, because Nicole and I were just talking beforehand, and there were over 40 people registered for this free lecture. So what I would do is I would make it available. If people couldn't attend today, just make it available over the next few days. If you want to watch this, this free lecture, and decide if this is for you, because my motivation is always self-empowerment, always helping you to stand on your own 2 feet as a self-awakened being.
Yes, and I remember from your excuse me previous courses, the experiential part of it is so valuable to be able to really integrate the teachings into not only yourself and the way you experience your own chakras, but also in relation to other people and different situations in your life, different relationships in your life. It's very helpful when relating to both yourself as well as one another.
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
just so.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it's not for everybody. I mean, the way to take this course is trust your intuition. If your intuition says yes, then that should be very clear. If it says no, then that's clear. You will always create the situation, circumstance, and teachers in your life who are next for you. The trick is, are you aware of what's next? Because it has been said that if you're really conscious, you're also alert. You're going, oh, this must be one of those times that this is important for me to pay attention. So you have to trust in your own abilities as to what's right for you, because that's what's going to empower you.
And do you feel like during the course you will teach people on how to tap into that intuition?
And the reply was, thanks. I would like to send today's video intro to a few friends too, if possible. Fantastic. Yeah, share it as much as you like. You never know. One of your friends may be saying, oh, I'm hoping my friend sends this lecture to me telepathically.
Yes, and Helen is suggesting that maybe you can cover a few common questions that people have
Sure.
throughout the course.
Yeah, well, learning outcomes. Sometimes it's really hard to describe a learning outcome if a person who attends has an inner revelatory experience. How do you describe that? Right? It's like if I'm doing this messages from spirit or past life workshop where I'm assessing people's past lives, how do I know that? Because for me, this ain't my first rodeo. I've been doing this other lifetimes, but I'm always focused on what empowers that person, but from a level of being that's beyond just simply looking at them physically and making an assessment based on their physical appearance. That's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking more at the chakra disposition and what is the definition of their character in this lifetime. Now, for some people hearing that for the first time, they may think I'm a witch doctor. you know, because this is not necessarily in everybody's purview as to this level of reality. Like when I went to a Chamber of Commerce gathering last year, I said, I'm happy to give a free energy medicine, energy psychology session to someone as a raffle ticket. And you heard crickets. There were about 50 people there, and they all looked at me like, huh? I said, well, how many of you are familiar with energy medicine? Four, maybe. That's not bad or good, but we're living in an age called Dwapara Yuga, which is one of the 26,000 year cycles of the Yuga. And the Mayans talk about this too, where we would be incarnated in an age where we had the capability and the capacity to comprehend subtle energies, what Yogananda called the atomic age. Now you and I are ready. That's why CIHS exists. It was time for Dr. Murayama's vision that he saw in 1972 to become concrete in 1992 so that it would be a brick and mortar place where people could come virtually or physically because they themselves were at a point in their evolution where they could create a CIHS to exist. It isn't just that CIHS exists, it is that people like you, your spirit is creating the means to facilitate your awakening. It's a two-way street. It's a co-creative conscious collaboration. That's what's really happening. So if you embrace your ability to create CIHS and Nicole Ryle's fine work in presenting all these public enlightened programs, this in part is your doing, and part of your responsibility is to accept your ability to create these circumstances because that's what you're actually doing. You think the people had all been drinking champagne? Oh, drinking. That could be.
Mhm.
Sure. Chakra. Sign me up.
Yes. Well, and Dr. J, you touched on that. The Enlighten program, the public programs are really designed to kind of give you a taste of the academic programs, and in
Mhm.
which you can dive deeper into all of the different aspects of integral health, which the psychology core of the chakras is a part of, and noetic sciences which is really that deep dive into a lot of the science of consciousness, and then psychology, our psychology programs all try to give the kind of lens or come from the lens of mind, body, spirit, which this course, right, addresses, is all
Uh-huh.
parts of the being. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, great.
All right. So what else do we got here? Any other questions or comments? This is the reason why I wanted to make this time available to you as for, what is the content of these teachings and why is it important? So just think of it as this is an externalization of the soul quality in this lifetime to ascend to a higher order of what Dr. Moriyama called the global human society. That we're living in an age where, as he wrote, we cannot afford to do otherwise. So people like myself are attracted to CIHS. People like Nicole are attracted to CIHS. There is a cohesiveness of the staff, administration, faculty, students. They're all coming to CIHS for a unanimity of purpose, which is mind, body, spirit. Give yourself credit for being able to create this, because if you can create this, what else could you create in your life that would empower you? Anything, anything. And it comes down to how the spiritual teachers say, whatever divinity is within you is securely and safely and wholly going to guide you not only what to do, but how to do it. These are the writings of great teachers. And so, another thing you can do is you can read Dr. Modiyama's theories of the chakras, which is more yogic based. You can read his other book, Awakening the Chakras and Emancipation, which is a very cool book, should be on everybody's bookshelf. If you really wanted to deep dive into Dr. Modiyama, you could read Being and the Logic of Interactive Function, which is probably his crowning work of the more than 100 papers and books that he's written in his lifetime. It's probably the one greatest summation of his life's work. And I've taught from all these books, and I still read Being and Logic over and over again, trying to grasp the depth of Dr. Mudiyama's awareness. He was a realized yogi, passed away in 2015, but there are still many videos that you can access through CIHS and YouTube in fact, his president's message on YouTube is very lovely. So every student should watch that as a kind of a primer for why the CIHS was established and what are the 8 principles and why are the 8 principles important. I, as a trustee and faculty, embrace the 8 principles fully and completely. That's in our hearts. Dr. Modiyama, our beloved president, who is outgoing, he's going to take a position as the president of IONS starting March 1st, has entirely embraced the principles of Dr. Modiyama's teachings, as has Nicole and all of us here. So any other questions or comments? Nicole, is there anything else I could add to this, since you're going to send this out as a recording to anyone who would like to watch after today that might want to take the course? Is there anything else I should add, or you could add?
Yeah, I'm just, if you are new to our community, we just wanted to welcome you here and thank you for being here. Like I said, we are kind of in the process of expanding our public programs, both in person and online. And we do have a couple in-person events coming up. This Friday, there's a really fantastic sound healing. And then in mid-March, there is a spring equinox program. And Dr. Jelicic also holds in-person gatherings on various topics related to the chakras and spiritual development at his center, the Bamboo Garden, and that is also in North County in Encinitas. And if anybody out there is local and a wellness practitioner of any kind, we also host a free monthly networking meeting on Mondays, the first Monday of the month at noon. So you are welcome to come by to that. And now with registration of this course, you will be on our mailing list and we will be able to stay connected that way. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at CIHS.edu. And we just wanted to welcome you, and we really value the support of our global and local community. And we're so happy that you're here. So, yeah.
And one other thing is, this coming Monday, March 4th, and then every other Monday, so every 2 weeks, I offer free energy balancing for the public out of Bamboo Garden Wellness Center. That's my center that I co-own with my beautiful wife, Michelle Dexter, who's also faculty at CIHS. He's an integral psychologist. So from 6 to 8 p.m. in person and virtually, you don't even have to come in person. We offer energy medicine, integrative chakra therapy. And you can find out more about that on either lightnews.org or the Bamboo Garden Wellness Center website as well. And then we have 20 practitioners there at the center too to serve various types of healing needs.
Yes, it's a beautiful center. Let's see, we have one more. There's a lot of noise on the term consciousness, like super consciousness. Maybe Dr. J can close with a brief description of the consciousness in this course.
There is a term Dr. Moriyama uses, superconsciousness, and he wrote a book, and I taught a course of his on toward a superconsciousness. It is a state of being where your awareness has expanded beyond the nature of your physical self. And it embraces the continuity of the connectedness of all things where time and space collapse. So, in other words, when ancient peoples like the Mayans wanted to go to Venus or to the Pleiades, they simply altered their consciousness into a superconscious state to be able to go there, although not physically. They just simply astral traveled. So, superconsciousness is a state of being that transcends awakening consciousness state. And there's a lot of discussion as to what consciousness is. Dr. Brophy and others hosted Neuroscience Needs a Revolution in Consciousness studies. And this was last August 18th through 20th of last year, where we brought a lot of stellar speakers together to discuss just what consciousness is and what research is doing to show how that consciousness shows up in the human body, in the mind, in the spirit, and so forth. But it's one of those things where it cannot be obtained intellectually alone. That door is just not going to open, pounding it with neurons intellectually only. Like Einstein said, one cannot solve a problem on the level with which it was created. There's a lot more to it. Or Moriyama said that awareness is not conceptual thinking or imagination. So as you cultivate the stimulation of your chakras in an appropriate and safe manner, you arise to states of super consciousness uh, that transcend space and time. So if I'm reading someone's past life and relating it to this lifetime, how would I know that unless I was in a state of being that could access a level of consciousness that is not subject to space or time? So this simultaneously is the beauty and the difficulty of the metaphysics of the human being, is that both are true, but it's not easy to understand with a three-dimensional consciousness because our mind is inured in five sense perception in this three-dimensional reality. And yet there is a reality to you and I that has an astral body mind, a causal body mind, and there's dimensions of reality beyond that. But it's very hard to describe if we only use three-dimensional reality words like energy, frequency, vibration, but yet those superconscious states exist all the time. In fact, we have developed acupuncture, for instance, for what, more than 3,000 years, and yet how did someone perceive the subtle energies of the body? And then make diagrams as to what are the meridian systems, the nadi systems of the body, NADI, nadi systems. And yet, isn't it true that if somebody saw that 3,000 years ago and could write texts about how to do acupuncture, don't you and I have those same abilities today, but they're just not awakened? I mean, don't you and I actually see the chakras right now, but perhaps we're not awakened to that level of reality? This is the amazing part of this age that you and I have incarnated, is that we're now awakening those abilities that we already are. Not hopefully, that this is a very real thing. So states of super consciousness are there for those who seek. Simple. It's very simple. Like Sri Yukteswar said, God is simple, everything else complex. So as you devote yourself to your own spiritual studies, your own spiritual tools, experiences, exercises, techniques, you are in fact awakening yourself. Yogananda said, God loves to have his skirt tugged on by us. So there's nothing wrong with you being eager and enthusiastic, but grow like a beautiful tree, one step at a time. Not Don't jump, don't try to awaken yourself several levels at once. That is not necessarily a safe way. And there are people that, are engaging today in microdosing and other forms of psychedelic work, but this also has to be approached in a very safe and loving manner where your foundation is love. Your foundation is love. and you are proceeding with temperance and prudence. And then the lens through which you see is faith. Faith is that trust in the intuitive faculties, the soul's guidance, leading you to higher levels of awareness. But have gratitude and thankfulness for the level that you are right now. Because if you look at the understanding of we live in a oneness, then if that's true, then every moment contains a drop of total consciousness. It's not whether it's there, it's whether you are available to it. It's whether you are available to it. Yogananda, once again, he said, one cannot be any closer to God than you already are, but you can reveal that closeness. You can reveal that closeness. And that's what you're doing with a course like this. This is this co-creative conscious collaboration where you created teachings of the chakras or sound bath healing or any other thing that all of the great programs that Nicole's putting together are all there in some way to facilitate your inner growth. That's the whole point. Like I said, I never thought I'd be talking this much, but here I
Yeah.
am.
That was a beautiful description of it. I mean, again, it's there within each one of us, and every little course like this offers new insights in. And
Mm.
yeah, and I'm really looking forward to experiencing the course with you and with all of you that are going to join us. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your great questions. Helen says, thank you for opening this doorway for those who are ready to walk through our next level of consciousness. Exactly. We are ready. Um, so again, if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to email either Dr. Jelisich or I at enlighten@cihs.edu. And we will be sending out this recording. It will eventually be up on our YouTube channel as well. So thank you for your time, Dr. J, and thank you all for your time here. We appreciate you taking out the time of your day to join us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much, Helen and Christopher. We appreciate you, and yes, have a great afternoon. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Dr. J.
Thank you, everybody. See you soon.
See you soon.